Hello. I'm trying to make sure I can see my little light and that my video will be under 15 minutes. But I have noticed outside since I've been going around that there's definitely a shift in the air of aggravation, I think. Um, and I want to explain to people that you are only going to be able to conversate with people who are on your own, like on the same frequency as you. And you're going to realize that when you start having conversations with people that it's like speaking a foreign language to them. Okay. I have a very small minded and very politically involved family. And a lot of people's lives are changing right now, and a lot of people are not doing good. And we have a lot of despair around the world and a lot going on. And some people are still going to be thinking in this old way of the way it's always been, regardless of if they are being or know someone who is being like specifically affected by it. And so, as someone in their mid 40s who has owned a business, been married and divorced, had long term like I've done all of the things that you're supposed to do in order to be able to succeed and have the American dream, okay, which I did not ask for. But for some reason, some people are still under the impression that, like, you owe a debt of gratitude to a country instead of to each other. And until we can get over the fact of that, we are not beholden to imaginary landlines, okay, and all of the rules of something that cannot be bought, which is the planet. We'll start to realize that we were actually given a lot for free that we continue to let other people exploit, and those exploiting it are not benefiting us who are the ones laboring for it. So I would suggest that people really start to think about the fact that we have been given so much for free in abundance for our prosperity and creativity and to steward the earth. And what we're doing with it is being charged for it, um, over consuming it, wasting it, fighting over it, um, and using money as a means so that people can't afford it when it shouldn't be able to be bought in the first place. And things I'm talking about are light, dark, power, water, shelter, medicine. All of these things have been given to us on this planet. And for some reason, somebody bought the planet and then sold it off to a bunch of monopolies and huge corporations. And now they're charging us, and we're supposed to be working for a living. I don't know at what point we understand that that is not only a lie, but the country that told you to it is now telling you owe a great debt of gratitude to them for it. Uh, Coming from someone who has labored for a country for 29 years and started working when I was 14, has also given birth and raised two future laborers for this country. I will sure as shit have a say in what I plan to do with the rest of my life. I would suggest to any young people, do not follow in the way that you were brought up to follow. There's nothing wrong with wanting a different design for your own life, and you will lose a lot of years beating yourself up if you cannot fit the way that people are telling you to fit. And when you realize that you are in your own life with one chance and time cannot be bought, you'll start to see the importance of standing up for yourself, telling people no, or yes. It's a full sentence, and you'll see a lot of other people that have overcome obstacles that were put in their way because they did not want to be told who they were going to be. I'm one of those people. I spent I spent a lot of time in my life trying to, get the money, get the business, get the marriage, get the this, get the that. And I realized that, like, all of these things are designed as almost like a money grab, and there's no real value in money. I mean, we put the value in money. That includes gold, and that's why it's so unstable. This is when people realize the amount of pain that has been caused for money, and the fact that we are the ones giving it any value whatsoever. It's going to be kind of a reckoning. I think people are going to have like a really hard time understanding. I did, that we've given a lot of our years that we don't get back to something that was designed for us to fail in the long run. You have to have a serious like backbone and be okay being shamed, being blamed, being told that you're doing everything wrong, for you to want to go your own way at this point. I think a lot of people are going to be breaking away from the old way to a new way because we see how it's affecting us in general. Like, I can guarantee you that you would not be having as many health problems if you weren't so stressed at work, stressed in your relationship, stressed at home, um, and worried like 95% of the time. You would have a chance to use the other, 80 some percent of your brain that doesn't get used because you are so used to using the only functional part to worry and not be in the present moment. And my daughter is on her own. My son will be on his own shortly. And I realize how much my own conditioning from my own family trickled down generationally, okay, to my son and my daughter. Took my daughter moving out, which hurt my pride, but has strengthened our relationship in ways that I didn't realize. And I think that she did. And I got to realize that like I wasn't even myself anymore. I had turned into somebody totally different. And I was so miserable that that was trickling down on everybody else. Um, and I see a lot of people doing that right now. And when you start to look at it as we're all just trying to run this old, outdated, like program, it's like wearing old clothes that don't fit, you know? Um, then you realize like why you can't, you know, dance when you want to in these like tight, short, outdated clothes, or you can't upgrade because you're running an old program kind of thing. And then it starts to be like, oh, okay, I get it now. Because everybody's trying to be like, you got to wake up, you got to do this, you got to do that. And people are not going to understand what you're saying, um, until they get to whatever level they're on. Like we're all resonating at a certain frequency. I can tell you right now, if you got family or friends that are like watching the news on social media all the time, like consuming everything around them, instead of being in the present moment and being with all of these natural, beautiful things that we have that rejuvenate us, without spending any money, you're going to realize that you're like speaking a foreign language to them. They're not going to understand you. It took me a really long time. And I was like, at a certain point, I was just like, um, I could feel it in my gut. Like, I'm not arguing with you about something that you are absolutely 100% like set on misunderstanding. Um, and some people who you know your whole life will surprise you greatly. But I started to understand like everybody is just trying to make themselves comfortable in their own reality. Okay. And that's hard to do because we all know we don't fit correctly. Some people get the money, some people get the business, some people get the relationship, some get a combination of all of those, some get all of them. But there's never a real level of satisfaction because people still want more. Okay. Um, and it's the ones that have the most that are still never satisfied. Okay. That's why they can't sit still. They can't sit by themselves. They can't sit in silence because they can't be around themselves because they know they're living a complete lie. Whatever. But I'm really working on trying to see people from their angle, because it's true, and the outsiders in school, uh, they're now feeling much more comfortable in their reality when they can step away from the fact that they knew all of this stuff was not factual the way we were living and it didn't feel right. Um, and now the people who have spent a lot of time, a lot of money, and invested a lot in these degrees and jobs and marriages are having buyer's remorse. Okay. Because now they realize also, some of them, that you're only allowed to learn what they want you to learn. Okay. Academia is based on what, like who started it. So when you take it back to the root cause of where did all this start from, you'll start to see that there's no way for you to succeed to the degree of in your being your own free person in your own power. Because based on frequencies, you can't control love. And love always overrides hate. And when you look around you all the time and you look online, how much love do you see? How much joy do you see? Not a lot. They push fear, anger, division, and despair on us most of the time, which keeps us all at a very low frequency. But moving forward, I think it's going to be a lot easier for people to see like there's a much bigger picture to why we're all here on the planet. And it's up to us to figure out what that is and find each other. It's okay if you don't fit where you've been, right? But you need to find where you fit moving forward and now, because that is also going to raise a collective frequency. If you are hanging out with people that you don't really like, but you don't want to be alone, or you're in relationships that you don't really like, but you don't want to be alone, or you're just passing time by running through people, whatever you're doing to escape your reality. A lot of us go through escapism. I just celebrated 14 years of sobriety. So I'm very well versed in escapism, but you can't run forever. And so instead of running, why aren't we trying to change it for everyone so that we can all fit in our own ways and we can all have a satisfactory or great life? Because nobody wants to create anything when they're angry, in despair, sad. But when you get around the right people and they make you feel good and you already are starting to feel better in yourself, your creativity soars. And that's what we're put on this earth for. We're supposed to steward it and create for it and for each other. And so don't try and I'm very guilty of this sometimes. We need to paint a different picture of what we want humanity to look like moving forward. And that's completely up to the newer generation and for us to support them through that. And when you look at money, I just think you can say that it's done way more harm than it has ever done good. And it's built on an unstable foundation. Um, and I think that you cannot buy love, time, or human beings. And yet, all of that is currently for sale. So, I hope this made sense. In my head, it did. See you next time.